Well, to start this story, it is necessary to mention that I recently started playing D&D, and I've only played about 3 one-shots, and I just played my first session in person, which unfortunately gives rise to the horror story. I was excited because this time I made my character by myself, and I was very proud of it. It was a human fighter battlemaster, and focused a lot on making him a support so he could take attacks and help my teammates deal more damage. The day of the game comes. I go to the game store, and we start playing the one-shot, and it goes completely horrible when we face against a corpse crawler? I don't think this is right. If it is right, skill issue. Oh, wait, do you mean carrion crawler? Okay, yeah. That makes a little bit more sense. On one of his turns, he devours me, and I can't do anything but make attack rolls with disadvantage to have a small chance of making him vomit to escape. 3 hours pass, and I'm still inside the corpse crawler at the end. I died, and I didn't have a chance to do anything at all. Man, spending 3 hours in something's stomach only to die is, well, that just sucks. There are many heroic fantasies that people want to emulate inside of Dungeons & Dragons. We're gonna see someone try to rip off Jon Snow later on. But wanting to rip off the Sardaukar in Dune, well, it's a unique fantasy. My friends told me it's called voring. I don't know what that actually means, but it sounds fun. I'm really starting to get burnt out on my D&D prep. It's tough for me to just work on 2,000 words of notes every week without taking any breaks. But I just can't play video games for 12 hours. I need something a bit more bite-sized, but still quality. If only that existed. Thank God for Bloodline, Heroes of Lithis. This video is sponsored by Bloodline, Heroes of Lithis, a dark fantasy RPG where you can create your own legendary champions by combining all sorts of fantasy races like elves, demons, demigods, lycans, dragonborn, and much more. With its innovative air system and breathtaking visuals, Bloodline takes RPGs and gacha gameplay to an entirely new level. Look, in tabletop role-playing games, you guys are no strangers to making tons of crazy characters. And, hey, in Bloodline, you get to fulfill just a little bit of that fantasy by making and customizing your own champions, each one having their own talent trees and traits that can pass down through the family tree and even merge into one. Not just that, but if you want to take things to a next level, you can participate in the brand new Guild War on new maps, conquering territories with your guild members to earn unique hybrid champions called Bloodcraft Legends. With the ability to have your own kingdom, your own champions, beautiful scenes, and epic stories, I don't see why you wouldn't give this game a shot, especially since it's free. If you guys are interested, then you can head down into the description down below or scan the QR code that's on screen if you're on PC to download Bloodline Heroes of Lithis. By the way, using my code and my links, that gets you a package worth $20 whole. There's 100,000 gold, 100 diamonds, and 1 whole summoning crystal. Oh, hey, by the way, first 30 people who give me their account ID and username, you guys get a free champion. A legendary one at that, the Luxuriant, one of the best mages to carry your team. Also, those links give you access to the limited time top up discount event, up to 15% off on tons of in-game items. Don't miss out on that either. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. Thank you so much to Bloodline, Heroes of Lithis, for sponsoring today's video. In any case, I'm going to turn back into an animated rat so that we can get back to the video. So there I was, about to take my seat for what was supposed to be the dramatic final showdown of our year-long campaign. The Dungeon Master leans in with a devilish grin and says, as you step forward to claim the Crystal of Eternia, your trusted companion, Merrick, stabs you in the back, claiming the crystal's power for himself. Game over. Yeah, you heard that right. Game over. There was no epic battle, no last-minute saves, just a bit of dialogue, a bit of betrayal with the side of getting on with it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me explain how we got to this train wreck of a session. For the past year, our group has been meeting every other Saturday. We'd gone from exploring haunted forests to battling the denizens of the far realm. We defeated Lich Kings and Black Dragons. In short, our characters had gone from mere adventurers to legends. Our group was hyped to start our last session. Little did we know, this session would be a year's worth of excitement, crushed beneath the heel of the most nonsensical plot of all time. I mean, look, I watched 2 Now You See Me movies, alright? They have some rough plot twists, okay? Got some competition. Merrick had been with us since session 0. Marek, I'm gonna go with Merrick, it sounds cooler. Guy had been with us since session 0. He's our rogue, played by our buddy Dave. Merrick was the resident comic relief. He'd snark at the Dungeon Master, trade quips with the Dwarf and Barbarian, and occasionally prank the stuck-up Elven Ranger. He was bloody trustworthy, both the character and the player. So when the Dungeon Master says, as you step forward to claim the Crystal of Eternia, your trusted companion Merrick stabs you in the back claiming the crystal's power for himself, game over, it wasn't just Decarabas' character being stabbed in the back. It felt personal. The room went pin drop silent. Every eye went to David, fully expecting him to say, "You're kidding, right?" But David just shrugged, looking as shocked as the rest of us. Turns out the Dungeon Master had pulled Dave aside before the session to tell him about the twist, which left him with very little option but to play along. How'd that conversation go? We made it. Final session of the campaign. Oh my god, I am so excited. DM, seriously, man, I can't thank you enough for this journey. I'm really excited for the rest of the party to get here. It's really, really hype for me. Yes, I'm very excited as well. But there's something I need you to do. Yeah, what's up? I need you to take this dagger. Why would I need this? I already have weapons. Well, you're going to use that dagger to betray the rest of the party. You're going to do the classic rogue thing and kill everyone for loot. Easy peasy, right? Why would I do that? That sounds like a terrible idea. I really have no idea what would incentivize me to... Okay, we really need to talk to the tavern therapist, alright? We gotta stop pointing guns at... Okay, betraying the party. Got it. Give me a sec. Oh, sweet liberty! No! Why did we do this deserve torment? Why would anyone do this? See this coming? Now, I've got no problem with plot twists, moments of high drama, or occasionally a character death. However, this is just cheap. This is unearned. There hadn't been months of planning. There hadn't been a session's worth of sketchy behavior on the part of Merrick. There was no sudden or inevitable betrayal, just the abrupt, cold end to a story that we all were a piece of. What made it even worse was that the Dungeon Master looked like he just pulled the mother of all aces out of his sleeve. We were at a loss. The session limped to a close with half-hearted see-arounds and just awkward looks. We spent the next few days in the group chat railing against the injustice. We debated starting a new campaign with our characters' descendants. Heck, we even thought about asking the Dungeon Master just to not come back. The magic was gone. The final session had rendered an amazing year's worth of stories into a cautionary tale about the importance of collaborative storytelling and the player's stake in the story. Looking back, I think that's why this is a horror story. It wasn't in-game monsters or deadly traps. It was a reminder that in tabletop role-playing games, the scariest story is one where a bad mood by the Dungeon Master turns an epic saga into a tragedy, not just for the characters, but for the players too. TLDR, in the final session of our years-long RPG campaign, the Dungeon Master abruptly ended the game by having a trusted character betray the party with no prior hints or foreshadowing, ruining the immersive and collaborative storytelling experience and leaving the players frustrated and just disillusioned. So, I've said in the past, and I kind of felt bad for saying this, that if you get to the end of a D&D campaign, years-long story alongside your friends, you can't mess it up. As a Dungeon Master, it is your responsibility to not mess it up. And again, I kind of felt bad for putting that much pressure on DMs, because it is on the players too. But, dude, if a Dungeon Master pulls something like this and ruins the end of an epic story, that's what the players are going to remember. They don't remember the journey, they remember the ending. Look, I'm a massive A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, right now House of the Dragon fan. And even if sometimes I get annoyed with how much people don't shut up about the ending of Game of Thrones, it is sensible to me. I mean, that's what people do remember. Do you want that to be the fate of your campaign? No. I'm not saying you need to pull out some narrative masterpiece, but you do need to stick the landing. And this is the opposite of it. Forced betrayals like this suck. I mean, party betrayals in general are annoying, so why the DM thought this was a good idea, I will never, ever know. It must have been based on something. I mean, I just can't think of what it would be. Anyone got any ideas? I'm very new to Dungeons & Dragons, and most of my games were run by my equally inexperienced friends, or myself, and those were really fun. That is until one of my IRL friends met someone in college who offered to run a game for us. Everything was going smoothly, and I was having a lot of fun developing my character, as I had her concept for about 6 months by then. While they won't come up a lot for context, the party was a Fey Artificer, a Fawn Artificer, and a half-elf Bard Artificer. Yep, trio of Artificers. Sadly, we couldn't explore this too much, but I will get to that later. Literally, this party is just
Rock and stone! Rock and stone, brother! Carl!
I like it. We also had a living statue paladin and a Goliath who kept changing classes, but I think he was a warlock barbarian. None of these players were the problem, of course, but the dungeon master, who I will call Bog, was. The half-elf left pretty early due to various personal issues, but also at one point we were fighting a basilisk, and Bog refused to let anyone's player character know what a basilisk is, which didn't make a whole ton of sense as they were pretty well-known fantasy monsters, I think, and didn't give us a good reason why we couldn't know which was the main issue here. What did that even look like? Did he just like force you to look into the basilisk's eyes because you don't know, it'll turn you to stone, you got no idea? It was in Harry Potter, man. Come on. Everyone knows about this thing. Bog also got really confused by the spell Fairy Fire. The half-elf wanted to cast it, and then didn't allow it to be used correctly, which was rather frustrating. The fight ended up with two of us trapped in stone, even though our characters already realized not to look at the dang things. Most of their issue with Bog was their unwillingness to focus on everyone else, outside the Goliath and Lair the Fawn. The constant combat we found ourselves in, literally every single session. The fact that they were often extremely high for every session. I'm starting to think drugs and D&D are a bad combo with how often this happens. Constantly complaining about their last campaign falling apart, and the worst offense, manipulating their dice rolls in their favor to make things harder for us. For extra context, this was an online campaign, as all of us were spread out across 2 states. I don't mind online D&D, and I actually prefer it because it's easy to schedule around. It also lets us have digital logs of our character plans that Bog seemed to rarely look at, and I had a really fun one that I created with the help of said DM Bog. My Fae was an outcast of the Fae Wild, and she tried to recreate the power item that gave the exiled Winter Court their power, only to learn that the Winter Court was now a tyrannical government in the mortal plane, and now was hell-bent on returning to her old workshop to destroy it before it was too late. Bog gave me the idea, and then gossiped to the Goliath later that it made no sense that my girl basically made the Philosopher's Stone, like it had been my idea the whole time.
Hey, dude, I heard you talking crap on my character. That's not cool, man. Well, so what, alright? It's not my fault that you made your character a Mary Sue who can invent basically anything. It literally is your fault. It was all your idea. No, it wasn't. Why would I be coming up with concepts for your character? Dude, I don't know. We were talking about it. But it doesn't stop the fact that this was your idea for my character. I just happen to like it. I would never do that. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, dude, I have this amazing character idea for you, like seriously.
Who's that?
Just
Yeah,
one of a kind.
who's that, huh?
I think
That's
you
you.
should be this inventor
That's
who
you.
basically
Giving me
invented
my
things,
character
like,
idea.
create the Philosopher's
Huh?
Stone, no
What do you think
problem,
about
the
that?
big bad evil guy.
What do you
Nothing
think?
like
Like,
it.
alright, that looks like you. That doesn't look like me.
Bog also refused to let us go to the Feywild because we were too under-leveled. When I left, we were level 6. Sure, maybe, but why wouldn't you tone down the level gap if your party wants to get to a certain area sooner? They also just made the entire way to get to the Feywild immensely difficult, with a fetch quest of 5 different types of hag essence spread all across the continent, and then apparently became redundant because after I left, the items got stolen under everyone's noses, when at that point we were already 3 hags in. Another issue is that my character was Arrow Ace, and as an Ace person and an LGBT person in general, I made this very clear. My character, being a Fae, is very tiny, being like 3'5", and Bog was making fun of this, with an implied sexual meme with that white girl on the couch surrounded by 4... I've never heard of this one. This looks vaguely... Well, it looks like something that would cause the kind of jokes the Daily Wire would defend with their lives. I didn't really make my discomfort clear, as it only became more and more uncomfortable later, but I also just felt so disrespected and disgusted as a player and as my character. As mentioned prior, it was only really the Goliath and Fawn's characters who got focused on. Bog said they were going to use the Goliath story to lead into everyone else's, which I get, but then it was all Goliath, 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 even when we were doing the fetch quest to get to the Feywild that linked to my character. We were often combat locked, often spanning 2 sessions in a row, which we only had once a week, which left very little time to explore our characters' dynamics with each other, and made things really just not enjoyable, as we had a lot of fun concepts and possible dynamics that felt really redundant. The final issue was something pointed out by the Goliath, who often was sitting nearby Bog, who didn't really try to hide their screen well enough. The Goliath used to message me that he thought Bog was cheesing their roles, which looking back happened way too much. Oftentimes, encounters felt way over our level, which is ironic given the main reason we weren't heading into the Feywild. The amount of times almost all of us fell was incredible, and the unwillingness to make things somewhat easier for our low-level party, and then stating that once we graduated past level 5, the tutorial was over. Bog would help us less in combat, not that they ever did, and things were going to get harder. That's something I do too. Am I a cringe DM? It all started to become too much, and I wasn't that enthused about my character, who up until then, I've been drawing a lot and thinking about a lot. I stopped trying to actually roleplay and gave up completely on her voice, constantly complaining to my other friends and parents that I just didn't want to go in. I wanted to call off sick or something, but never doing so because I was worried that Bog would blow up when I left. That is, until the fateful day, I gave in. Directly messaged them that I was leaving. I clearly offended them a little and then publicly told the party I was leaving. It was calm, it was peaceful, I was free and absolutely sick of Dungeons & Dragons. It was only when I got Baldur's Gate 3 that I finally fell back in love with D&D. 2 months later, yippee. Also, according to the Goliath, Bog was really annoyed that I left without a fight and that it wasn't explosive or something. What the hell? Man, this DM wants problems. Only problems. Which, you know what, is not a bad thing for a dungeon master. Your job is to create problems and let your party come up with the solutions. However, it's when those solutions become too frustrating that you have a serious, actual problem. Difficulty in combat is great. I love that kind of thing, as I say many times over, but frustrating combats are not good. A difficult combat should be engaging and thrilling. Frustrating is just going to anger your players, which is not the point of playing a game for fun. Also, the way the DM handles Spotlight is way out of focus. It is bad. It is difficult to balance, but it's not like the other players gave the DM nothing to work with. I mean, the DM does have something to work with. And yeah, I get the DM might be waiting for later, but how much later? If the players need to wait IRL months in order for their characters to get Spotlight, they're gonna get kind of bored kind of fast. So I played Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition at the game shop with my usual group and our forever dungeon master. Our DM was a good guy with a bit of a soft spot, which is kind of a problem. We were starting up a new campaign, so we got an influx of players. Our party by the end was 8 people. Still, okay. If you can handle it, sure. I rolled up a Tabaxi monk. One of the newish players was a massive Game of Thrones fan. He wore his Targaryen shirt to literally every game. And he rolled up a character that was described as Jon Snow, but less of a cuck. Was he ever cuckolded in the show? I mean, cuckolding did happen, but did it ever happen to Jon? Because I don't think so. His girlfriends usually got, you know. Anyway, he was a ranger and a half-dragonborn homebrew. He also went real hard in the backstory and demanded that all of us read it, and one of his key catchphrases was, "I do want it," that being the throne. Basically, he wanted to be the opposite of Season 8 Jon. Instead of being timid and humble, he was cruel and power-hungry, and fully embraced his Targaryen heritage by killing all those who stood in his way, especially Daenerys. God, this guy hated Daenerys. But including most of his own family, except Arya, who was his lover. Woo! Oh my god! As a massive Arya fan, I feel violated. Ew. He made sure to include plenty of details on that, and to top it off, he even basically rewrote a crap ton of the Forgotten Realms lore to fit his Westerosi backstory. Oh, despite all this, he listed his alignment as lawful good. Yes.
My aspirations in life are to be a wicked dictator, to conquer all that stand in my way. Whether they're my enemy or they're just an innocent, I will kill, and I will revel in their deaths. You know, I think that fits in the definition of lawful good. Oh, okay, good. That's what I was going for, you know, with this whole thing. Lawful good, yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely lawful good. Is there anything else you want to add about your character? Oh yeah, you know, small things, you know, just small character details, like, I'm in an intensely visceral sexual relationship with my sister. What? I don't see why that would be the...
DM was a bit taken aback by how much of his lore directly stepped on the toes of the actual game. Like, at one point, he literally tried to make the big bad evil guy have Targaryen roots, so our DM gently reminded him and said, you know, this does take place in the Forgotten Realms, right? A lot of the lore you reference is very specific to A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. I don't mind, but I almost certainly won't incorporate all of this. He responded by saying, I'll make it fit, don't worry about it. DM approved it because, well, he's very accommodating and admittedly is a Game of Thrones fan himself, as most of us were, and wanted to see where this went. You want to see where the Arya fanfiction goes? Because I don't, man, I don't! Thank you, real Arya Stark. I think I feel better now. The issues really started coming in when the campaign got going. Again, it was set in the Forgotten Realms, but Jon Snow, he had other plans. From the get-go, his whole goal was recruiting an army to sail west to Westeros. Apparently, Westeros and Faerun are on the same planet, according to him, and he viewed us as his recruits, and he was the main character of the campaign. The BBG ravaging Jacinta didn't matter, no, only the Iron Throne. He would refuse missions that he couldn't twist to make serve his ultimate goal. That, again, was all about Westeros and a bunch of Game of Thrones lore that had nothing to do with the campaign. And he would constantly go on about his fanfic backstory and how much he missed Arya and all the graphic things he wanted to do with her again. Ugh. We generally went along with it, but one day when NPC sent us to go on a rescue mission for a queen to save her daughter, this queen had already turned him down on his Westeros conquest goal. So he said, she is not my queen and I will not serve her. I'm never doing an accent ever again. She's not my queen and I will not serve her. She needs to mind her tongue around her king unless it's used to serve my... Damn. Service my cock. I finally said, we're doing this side quest, you are outvoted, man. And so he said, screw this, and ran off leaving us to do the mission. Well, he did for like 2 sessions. When he came back, he claimed he found a magic item that would grant him control of whites that he could defeat in battle, so he could turn one of his greatest enemies into his asset. He really just pulled this out of his bum. The DM said, no, that's too overpowered for a player to just homebrew off screen. He got really butthurt after that and became increasingly frustrated with the pace of the game. He would increasingly become more and more of a murder hobo, killing random people who disrespected the king of Westeros, or if they had something he wanted that he didn't want to pay or quest for. He would complain to the dungeon master about the pace of the game and why it was taking so long to find awesome magic items and recruits for his army, and he had even less tolerance now for any other party member or their stories. It's very Tiberius, isn't it? Like, obsessed with magic items, wants to recruit an army randomly. I mean, these are all actions of Critical Role's famous problem player. I mean, this dude is way worse than Tiberius ever was. Let me make that clear. But, I mean, similarities are there. I remember one time he legit told another party member, the elf cleric, after she was telling the party about her tribe and how it was destroyed by the big bad evil guy's demon knights. She admittedly did go for a long time about the backstory, and John's player was getting bored, so John said, oh my god, no one cares how many elf peasants got, by some demon knights. We have more pressing matters to attend to, and she scoffed and said, like your fanfic backstory has anything to do with the campaign. He then got really pissed off and said, I stab her in the throat. And DM said, alright, that's enough, John. You can't do that. And he said, why not? And DM said, because you're clearly pissed off at metagaming. This campaign is not all about you, so chill out. He then left again for another 2 sessions and came back to try and sneak another OP homebrewed magic item into his inventory, to which DM promptly removed it and warned him, do that again and you're out.
Alright guys, I think I'm about ready on the... Dude, what is that?
What? Nothing. What are you talking about?
What is that axe?
There's no axe here, man. I have no idea.
Do you think I'm stupid? Like, are you really trying to sneak items into this game? I mean, what happens when you try to use the items? Like, you're gonna tell me that they exist. I'm gonna find out no matter what. You can't just hide...
See? There's no axe. Oh my god.
Is it too late for me to join that call?
Well, it didn't come to that, because eventually he did end up coming to a point where his shenanigans got him killed. We met this NPC in a shack in Adder Swamp. this NPC, was a collector who had found a magic light sword that could deal subtle damage to hordes of creatures at the same time. He didn't know how to use it, but was keeping it for his collection. John asked how much it was, and the NPC refused to sell it. He said, "Nothing you have is of value to me. The only thing I care about more than my collection is my wife, and she disappeared 40 years ago." John then grabbed him and said, "Listen, peasant, your wife probably ran off to gargle on some other..." Oh my god. "Now give me the sword, or I'll shove my sword straight up your bum." We begged him to stop, and we couldn't support him in this because we thought this random guy, was dangerous, and he was, and also it did go against our morals, but he kept going and rolled an intimidation check and crit failed. The NPC then just looked at him and gave him a death stare, as we now could see that he was a death hag? Can someone fill me in? Because it sounds like the False Hydra, a monster everyone thinks is cool, and could be cool, but usually is super lame. I don't know why, it's just a vibe, okay? Alright, anyway, yeah, Death Hag. We're looking into its fiendish eyes, and watch his body transform, and the Dungeon Master told us to roll initiative. We were level 4. The Death Hag attacked John with his scythe, and landed a devastating blow. When we got to our turn, we immediately fled, and took a near deadly amount of opportunity attacks. John then tried and failed to flee as well, and got downed. The hag then took him and threw him out into the swamp, and the Dungeon Master gave him a chance to roll death saves. He failed them. John's player then got extremely angry again and got into this major argument with the Dungeon Master. He said that was BS and you know it. You just wanted me dead because you didn't know what to do with my character and his story. Yeah. He also said John has been resurrected before, so he's coming back next session. Dungeon Master denied this demand as they went back and forth and got even more heated. At one point, John's player started yelling at us, the party, for not having his back, and tried to argue that we could have beaten him if we, the party, didn't chicken out. DM then told him to lay off us, as he was now getting pretty mad, which is understandable at this point. The argument with this player escalated into a state of temper tantrum, and the guy stormed out of the store. That was 4 weeks ago, and since then, he has been in our group Discord begging us to play again, and being apologetic on one hand, but on the other, claiming he's gonna burn this world to the ground. Or trying to guilt trip the DM for not incorporating his backstory into the world enough, to which, oddly, the DM conceded on? No! DM folded like laundry! I get the sense the DM is going to let him come back, as he has gone from no to you need a break to if I let you back, things are going to have to change. I feel like he's going to show up and DM is just going to let him back in. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Yes, behold, Andrew Tate's version of Jon Snow. Seriously, this is just the essence of all that alpha male, sigma male content farm video making that we've seen on YouTube for the past few years. It got really bad, especially when short form content and Tate became big. And you know what? Now we're seeing the results in a D&D game. Good God. I think there is an interesting lesson on how player goals and backstories should be incorporated. Some players have big goals. Take back my kingdom. Kill the man who killed my father, who happens to also be a major big bad evil guy. Those goals are going to take a long time. And other players have smaller goals, like find my sister who's in the next town over. I think both are needed. Like Caleb Widowgas in Critical Role has short-term goals that go before his long-term goals that happen throughout the campaign. And this guy only has the long-term goal, and he wants it quick, which, I'm sorry, if you want proper pacing, ain't gonna happen. Especially since having a king in the party is kind of awkward. And in this case, just straight up disturbing. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our Tavern Adjacent podcast, where we talk all things RPGs with some awesome D&D and RPG content creators. It's linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down into the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," to let me know I made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in essence, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.
Ow! Every time.